I believe that with every fiber of my being, that the doctors are good people doing the best they can, but the training they receive only focuses on pharmaceutical intervention. Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Off Grid, and today I want to tell you a story about taking your health into your own hands. Now, I would assume that a pretty good percentage of my viewers are coming over here from the main channel, Rock Hill Farm, and you guys might already know this story, but I'll tell the short version of it for people who are new here and have never heard it. So I'm 44 years old, and a year ago, little over a year ago, I weighed 288 pounds, and I was suffering from a lot of health problems, and I was also uninsured, and I had doctors trying to put me on medicine. And then my dad had just had open heart surgery, and he was dealing with even more medical problems than I was. And I'm kind of freaking out, like, what do I do here? I'm so overweight, I can hardly even go for a walk without being out of breath. And so I'm looking for a solution here. And I stumbled across the carnivore diet and Dr. Ken Berry. And that has absolutely changed my life. So at 288 pounds, my blood pressure had been high for a few years. They were telling me that, I think it was over 2 years ago, they said, you have to go on this medication. High blood pressure is a silent killer. If you don't do it, you're going to end up with a heart attack just like your dad. And I don't like medication. I guess that's a me problem, whatever. I do not like to take any type of medication, and especially this type of medication, because getting on blood pressure medicine, and I'm looking down because I'm trying to walk this trail through the woods, and I'm gonna be taking a kind of a hectic walk while I'm talking here. But this type of medication, like blood pressure medication, once you're on it for life. And this has very real side effects, and it doesn't solve your high blood pressure. It just keeps it down a little bit. And the number one risk factor for high blood pressure is the circumference of your waist. So losing weight is not a vanity thing. It's a life-saving thing. So in 1 year, I lost, at my lowest point, I was 198. Now I'm about 208, something like that. And so I'm down 80 pounds right now. It was as much as 90 pounds. And my high blood pressure went away within 30 days. I mean, it was just like, as soon as I started the carnivore diet, my high blood pressure was just gone. And that's a miracle in itself. And the weight loss is nice. But I had a lot of other symptoms. Like I couldn't sleep because if I laid down, my acid reflux would be so bad that I would lay down at 11 p.m. and fall asleep. By 1 a.m., I was sitting up and trying everything I could to keep from throwing up. And it was every night. And most nights, I would go sit in a chair and sleep in a chair in the living room. And in a year since doing this, not one time have I woken up with that feeling that I couldn't keep my dinner down. All right, this is the trail I'm cutting on the main channel. I've got all my equipment and I'm cutting a trail across my property, and today I just felt like it'd be cool to get up here and take a look at it, but I'm getting trapped into where it's not cleared. So we're gonna turn around and go the other way, and I'll work on telling this story some more. So if you're not familiar with the carnivore diet, it's essentially a version of keto. You might have heard of it as the Atkins diet at one point, but there's a difference here, and it's an important difference. Atkins diets, keto diets, what they do is tell you you can't have any carbohydrates. And they think that that's the magic of it. And that is a big piece of the magic. The problem with those diets is they allow you to have artificial sweeteners and chemical-laden foods and all kinds of garbage in your diet. You can have sugar-free cookies. You can say, I'm keto, I'm on the Atkins, I'm whatever, but I eat sugar-free cookies all day. I've had lapses where I fell off the wagon and was having sugar-free products every day. That will wreck you. It will ruin your results. My blood pressure went back up. I could feel it. So those are low carb diets, and they'll help you lose weight. But if you really want the miracle of this lifestyle, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. If you really want the miracle of this, then you want to go carnivore. And carnivore, essentially with carnivore, I don't eat anything but beef. And sometimes, I might have a little chicken or a little pork, but 99% of the time, all I eat is beef. And you might think, oh, wouldn't that get boring? No, I don't, not at all. I mean, there are individual days where I'm like, oh, I'd like to have something else. And I might crave something like some shrimp but I have no temptation when we go to a steakhouse and there are dinner rolls on the table. It's not even a thought that crosses my mind that I'd like to have those. So that's my journey at 44. I'd never had any, diagnosed problems before, and I cured my high blood pressure, lost the weight, got rid of the acid reflux, and I'm able to sleep at night. What's more dramatic is my dad. Let me show you something before I tell you my dad's story. Look behind me, or look in front of me. This is where I'm trying to connect my trail to. Look at this beautiful little flat spot right here. This is going to be a hideaway for us. Let me see if I can go that way a little bit while I'm talking. So my dad was always one of the hardest workers I've ever known. He'd outwork anybody. Strong as an ox, country strong, hay hauling kid. And all of a sudden he couldn't do anything a few years ago. I don't know, it might have been 5 years ago now. And turned out he had a blockage and atrial fibrillation. I'm no doctor. I don't know what any of this is, but his heartbeat was irregular and he couldn't function. And he didn't quite have a heart attack, but he was right there on the verge of that. And so he went and they took him to the emergency room and they had to open him up and do bypass surgery and all this stuff. And he's got put on 100 medications for cholesterol and high blood pressure and blood thinners. And he had this whole line of medicines. And already the only thing before that, before the heart issue, was he had sleep apnea and he had to sleep with one of those masks on. And he'd been sleeping with a mask on for years, even though he's not that overweight. He just would quit breathing in his sleep, I guess. I don't know exactly how it works. But I was telling Dad about this and I said, he's looking at natural cures. He's searching up certain herbs that will help with this and help with that. And he's trying to be his own doctor a little bit because he doesn't want to take 100 medications that have side effects. And even taking all that medicine, he still had high blood pressure. He still had high cholesterol. He still had sleep apnea. And he's taking this entire medicine cabinet full of medication. And he didn't want to do it anymore. And so he's trying to look stuff up. I told him about the carnivore diet, and he started doing it with me. And I would say he complies with the regimen about 75% of the time. He doesn't even do it all the time. He mostly does it. And for me, mostly doing it doesn't work. I have to be 100%, or I can't stick to it, and I can't get the results. But he started doing this most of the time, and he had the most incredible results you've ever seen. And I got to show you this. I'm enthusiastic. I'm an excitable person. This view behind me is to die for. So I was talking to you a minute ago from that log over there. We made a big loop around here. But then this is the view from the top of the hill. And you can see my shop and the Quonset hut and then the main shop here and then the house over there. This is a great view. I want to build like a little cabin up here. So my dad goes on carnivore, and what he saw was his blood pressure went down. Not completely like mine, but quite a bit. And then he just started to feel better, and he's all excited, and he's telling me about it. And, you can't check your blood sugar as easily as your blood pressure. But he feels like he's getting great results, and he doesn't want to take these medicines anymore. And I said, I would never tell you or anyone else to stop taking a doctor-prescribed medicine. I don't have the qualifications for that. And you're risking your life by doing it. You're risking your life by not doing it. And the only thing you have is whatever level of trust that you put in the medical advice you're being given. And what I would say is that we are given the medical advice we are given because it's what's taught in medical school, and that medical training is paid for by the same companies that produce the medications that make us sick. And I believe that with every fiber of my being, that the doctors are good people doing the best they can, but the training they receive only focuses on pharmaceutical intervention. And one reason for that is, if you went to the doctor and he said, well, just eat healthy all the time, most people don't do it. And then you don't see that doctor again for 3 months and you've gotten worse. And so just telling people to eat healthy doesn't really work in the medical field. But there's no better solution than a whole foods diet that eliminates all processed foods and all chemicals from our food source. These aren't foods, they're food-like substances. And if you can eliminate all of those, it will change your life. And there are two groups of people trying to do that. That's the vegetarians and the carnivores. And the carnivore, I was vegetarian for 6 years. And I got fatter and sicker as a vegetarian because Cheetos are vegetarian. The rules of that does not solve my problem. So as a carnivore, I've been doing it over a year. I have no side effects whatsoever. It's 100% nutritionally complete. As a vegetarian, you have to work really hard to manage what you eat to get enough nutrition. Vegetables, it is hard work to get your nutrition from vegetables. I know that's not what you were told in school, but it's a fact. With beef, everything you need is in the beef. That's it. The best thing you can do is eat nose to tail. Have some liver every once in a while. You know, eat the heart. I love beef tongue. But all that is an aside. We're going to go back to my dad. And he didn't know what to do because he wanted to get off this medication and he felt better doing the diet, but he was afraid to do it. And no doctor is going to advise you to get off the medicine, no matter what you tell them about your carnivore diet or whatever else. But over the course of the last year, my dad has weaned himself off of 80% of his medication. Last time I talked to him, maybe a month ago, I think he was completely off the blood pressure medicine and only taking half of the blood sugar medicine, or the only taking half of the cholesterol medicine. And he stopped using his CPAP while sleeping, and he wasn't having any trouble sleeping. And so he went into a sleep test and they checked him and they said, you know, you no longer need a CPAP. They prescribed him a CPAP at the sleep clinic. And after doing the carnivore diet, he no longer needs a CPAP. He no longer needs the high blood pressure medicine. He no longer needs the cholesterol medicine. And he doesn't even follow this as strictly as I do. Now, if you're thinking, I'd like to do what you're talking about, Brock, but I don't know if I can stick to it. Well, here's my answer for that. It is hard. It's really hard, and everything worth doing is hard. But let me put it to you this way. For me, if I dabble in something, I lose. If I went right now, if I had a sugar-free cookie, and all day today, all day tomorrow, the rest of the week, I would fight with cravings. I'd be sitting there in the chair and just like couldn't control myself but to go get one. But it's an addictive substance. If I go a week without anything like that, I stop thinking about it. You don't have to slay this dragon every day. You have to slay it all the way once. You can't wound it and then come back the next day and fight that battle again. If you're going to take control of your health through diet, you have to do it 100%. You have to do it all the way. Get off of the craving for things that taste sweet by going a long enough period of time without anything that tastes sweet. And you'll beat it, and you'll be past it, and it's over. And that's my experience, and I believe you can do it too. So if you're struggling with health problems, I would say become addicted to watching Dr. Ken Berry on YouTube. Try the carnivore diet. It will change your life. And, you know, this is not a message that's going to make me money or gain me subscribers. I'm telling you this because it changed my life and I would like to change yours. So I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.